asked the boards of Cicero and Nichols and myself and the village, of course,
Town of Maine.
Town of Maine, who else is here? That's all right, yeah. We are exploring the possibility of creating a fire district and a ambulance district. To get things created properly in a legal sense and, try to make our community safer with some planning. I guess this is Glenn Vanel. He is volunteered by a group of us to, help administrate the program. To get information, we're looking for input from outside our area, as far as people that have done it already. There are plenty of consultants out there. You gotta get one that you trust, because consultants usually have nothing to risk but their reputation. And you gotta find out what works for you, so. I guess I babbled on long enough, you can step in, Steve, or Shaky, or whatever. I'm not overly prepared for this program tonight because of too many things going on, so.
I think part of the two reasons that we're looking at a district is to help share services, personnel, equipment, large item equipment purchases, maybe can be better facilitated with a combination of fire and EMS. EMS, I know it's, probably the most important thing is the personnel, trying to keep enough. So eventually, if all things form together, if we would get a district formed, we would, at some point, if other municipalities would be interested in getting in, say, for example, Shiocton or Center, or any neighboring facilities. At the first couple meetings, we tried to reassure everybody that this was not to try and get rid of Black Brick Rescue. This was to have a plan B in place in case something happens with Black Brick Rescue. They can't get enough personnel, or for whatever reason. At some point, if you had to have a full-time service come in here, more would be better as far as cost. It would be very hard for the current 2 to 4 municipalities. Right now the ambulance services run by the town and the village of Black Creek, and Cicero and Maine, or Cicero and Nichols contract. Well, if Black Creek Rescue would shut down January 1st because they can't get personnel, it would be very hard for our 4 municipalities to financially sustain another service coming in here. If they had to, ideally you'd want them to move an ambulance into the areas for response time, and that's anywhere from $700,000 to $1 million, $700,000 to $1 million a year.
Well, this is all just hypothetical, right? Because I don't think they've missed any calls.
No,
This is nothing to do with.
We're not at any point or saying that Black Brick Rescue has failed or they're going to fail. This is just, we don't wanna get caught with our pants down if something does happen. So we're just looking at, it would be better for Black Creek too to have town of Maine in or whatever to help support financially, so. And I think the last reason is and this is not the reason that this was even started, was there's possibility of getting a grant for the next 4 years to help finance this, but I don't feel that's a number one reason to do this, because after the 4th year, there might not be any grants or anything, so to me, that's not the main reason to look at this.
Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is going on in other small municipalities as well, where they're banding together to support their need as demographics change and people aren't participating in, as much in the volunteer organizations as they were, so you need to find a way to be able to support that from a bigger pool, so to speak.
Exactly, and the rising cost, on the fire side of it especially, the rising cost of equipment and vehicles
And training.
and everything that's involved, so.
So, I guess the gist of this all is we try to make our community safer, stronger, more dependable. We're not trying to change how wheels roll around, we're trying to figure out a way forward that satisfies everybody's needs without costing too much money to service us. And, that's, I guess, the gist of the program. I don't know, Shaky, you got anything?
Well, personally, I think that we should take one step at a time. We should concentrate on the ambulance district first. That's number one priority. That's what I believe. I think that's where we're having a difficult right now of, you know, the way it's working right now, it's not working out. We gotta set up a new board, set everything up, board of directors and all that. I think we need to not bite off too much at a time and head in the ambulance section first. That's what I believe. That's how I feel.
Can you actually separate the two?
They are separate.
They are
Yes.
separate and distinct.
Yeah, they're a separate entity, basically, yes.
Can you get
You
the
got
grant,
more, huh?
can you get the grant with just one,
Yes.
rather than doing the two?
It's a very similar process for both, so they kinda mirror each other. So if you're gonna do one, and correct me if I'm wrong, the other one kinda falls into place also.
Yeah.
So that's why we're kinda
So then
addressing
they're gonna be
both.
combined, is what you're saying? Ambulance and fire.
No,
You do them separate,
it'd be separate, but
because the numbers are different, right? So the EMS, you look at their hours of call and all that other stuff, and fire, you look at fire's call, so you do them separately, so then they got different calculations against them.
so, no, we're not trying to run anybody out of town, we're not trying to do anything, we're just trying to gather information. And the way the rumor mill goes, as soon as we had one meeting, everybody was on the rumor mill, what we were trying to get rid of somebody, we were trying to do this, and trying to do that. We're trying to get everybody here just to say, hey, we're not trying to do anything to anybody. We're trying to make a path forward that is acceptable for all and beneficial to all, so I guess that's the only reason we're all here at this point. I don't think it's a good planning point to be meeting with a whole community every time we have a meeting, cause it's hard to do that, but we need to inform you all involved so that nobody gets excited about how we're trying to.
What I can speak
Correct
for,
something.
for me is, I was kind of, I don't wanna say excited, but, you know, cause I've heard so many rumors, and it's nice to hear from you guys. I mean, I heard you guys were gonna have this finished by the end of the year, and it's just frustrating hearing all this stuff, so it's nice that you guys.
That's why you all were invited here
Yeah,
tonight.
and one thing I wanna say is, I agree with Shaky on getting the ambulance done, because I know it doesn't affect you guys, but when we get called to the village, like, we had 2 calls and it took 30 minutes for that other ambulance to get here, and we're sitting there looking like a, you know, bunch of yahoos, cause we can't, what can we legally do, what can we not legally do on fire, cause we're not EMS, so it'd be nice, and I agree with Shaky there, I mean, that'd be nice to get that.
And I think your point's well taken, cause I think we all feel that way. It's just that we started something and we're just trying to move forward, so. I don't know, I don't wanna talk for everybody, so.
So just a couple, one thing you learn is I'm very technical, right? So we keep throwing around the word district. If people start Googling it, you're gonna say districts don't exist. You're right, they don't. State law, even though the word's out there many, many times in many, many statutes, there is no such thing as a district. The only existing fire district in the state of Wisconsin actually is in Ortonville, okay? Then we're dissolved in the seventies, right? They use the word district to represent, I think it's state statute 660301, which says municipalities can come together and form an agreement to supply public service as a collective group, right? So the municipalities here can agree to come together and provide public service, right? It could be law, fire, EMS, public works if you want, so it's whatever public. So that, everybody uses the word district, but it's not technically a true district, just so everybody, because districts have taxing ability, and this won't have it. And the other thing, for all the boards, I can tell you this as fact, because there's 90% sure this is true. This board cannot make a decision, let's just say this board forms and everything, and they say, we're gonna build new fire stations, $1 million. Nichols, you're screwed because you gotta pay the bill. Wrong answer. Nichols, it's called unnecessary burden, right? So this board can't pass anything, they're not binding to anything. So the board, individual municipality boards have to agree to whatever it is, right? So this board can only make suggestions as to what to do. They don't have purchasing power, buying power, they do not have that. It lies within the municipalities. So the municipalities have the final say as a collective group, so.
With that said, why is bigger better? Because we got municipalities that can't agree already with each other.
I'm just a researcher.
That's all we're doing, Wayne, we're not changing anything at the moment. We need to look at what the possibilities are. And, it's a cost. We don't know if we can save any money doing this. We gotta find that out yet.
So basically, though, we could be in the same boat we are now, if, like, I'm not picking on the village says, okay, we're not gonna do with the ambulance. And everybody else is saying yes, then we're still in the same spot we are.
No, but that, if you have an intergovernmental agreement that can't happen, that's why we're in the situation we are. We're not a legal entity as the state of Wisconsin sees it. So we have a problem and we need to fix it. And, this is the avenue where we're trying to fix it.
So, I don't know what term we wanna use, but I'll use the room.
District is fine.
But, at the time, if this all goes forward and we form a district, if certain municipalities decide not to get in, then we know that, and we know what we have to work with. Unsimilar to what we have now, where at contract time, somebody's in, somebody's out. So you have everybody that wants to be in the district has a seat at the table and voting power to take back to their municipalities. But it's, at that time of the formation of the district, if somebody doesn't want in, they don't want in, if they wanna go a different route, so.
No, it's just, we're so at the beginning that we have no answers. Because we haven't gotten that far. We don't even have the right questions maybe yet, so that's,
So
but we wanna tell everybody because obviously everybody's got Facebook, everybody texts somebody, did you hear what they did yesterday? And it's not that's not what we're trying to do, so. All we're trying to do is give information, and that's the only way we can go forward is if we get some information from outside our area that has done different things. There's no one good plan for one person that we're gonna jump on, we need lots of input, so.
Have you talked to anybody yet, or anybody
Well,
that have done this, or?
Yeah, we had, 2 agreements from other districts in the state. One of them we kinda liked, we talked about and thought it was the better of the 2. We invited somebody from one of those districts to come tonight, and they didn't come, but what we need to do, and Glenn has a couple more that he just recently got, so I think we're at the point where we pick one of these that we like most of the material and start going through it, and what do we like and what don't we like, and pick it apart and cross stuff out, and that's a starting point where if we're gonna do it, sit down and go through it line by line and come up with a plan and see how it works, so.
So from the EMS side, right, let's just stick with EMS. So the first thing we have to do is we have to form an entity, right, with the state. They can recognize the state of the Department of Revenue, right? The next thing you gotta do is you come with an operational plan, then you gotta come up with a service director, or not service director, medical director, right? Those are three big things that you gotta get. The operational plan takes time, the medical control takes time, right? You gotta find a doctor that's gonna sponsor the license, right? You submit all this stuff to the state, that's step one. But to form that entity, we have to go to every municipality and get them to sign in, and I have a copy of an ordinance, or whatever you wanna call it, that can be gone through, I just got it this afternoon, that each municipality has to agree to, say, this is what we agree to form this thing, right? So, once you ever agree, now we're an entity, right, come up with a name, right? Now we start the process of, get a medical director, get an operational plan, you know, get your entity name and get licensed with the state of Wisconsin, so that you can start going through all this stuff, right? It takes time, you know, this is not a flip this around in 2-month deal, absolutely not.
So if I can back up one step.
Yep.
Let's back up to the existing ambulance now. What would it take for them to dissolve these, and this new district form? That's my question. My question is, the rural fire department, they have control over the ambulance right now?
They are pretty much their own entity. They come to us for a governing body, but
So
they
Black,
basically are their own entity.
so Black Creek Rescue would say, we wanna form a new one, and that's what's gonna happen then, is for the so-called district?
We gotta have, the rural fire committee is not recognized as a legal body, okay? It's not legally been prepared, cause most municipalities, 50 years ago, 3 guys got together and
Yep.
did it.
Yep.
And it worked until now, until you have a problem. Well, now you find out you're not a legal entity, you're not this and you're not that. We gotta get to that where we're a legal entity so that we can do the right thing. And so that's, but we gotta live with what we got for now, until we can
Correct.
find our path to the proper organization.
So Glenn, is this something that can be, just from the ambulance side, is this something that can be put together in 6 months, realistically?
Possibly.
Realistically.
I mean, it depends, is Dr. Cooper gonna stay on for us? Can we take the Black Creek Rescue's operational plan and just basically transfer it over to us? I mean, those are obviously 2 big entities, it's possible, but there's the legal stuff, right? And then how are we gonna pay for all the legal, the lawyer stuff, and, I mean, it's, can the municipalities agree to the whatever the agreement thing is, whatever they're gonna call it, the agreement to form this, cause you gotta talk about what's the structure look like,
So what I'm getting at with this is, you're trying to deal with one, and you're looking at 6 months at best.
Yeah, and ambulance, I probably
Okay.
easily,
Fire departments, this is not gonna be a quick turnaround.
No,
This is probably a 2-year process, minimum.
it may be, yeah. So.
I'm just looking at EMS, just for the record, I'm only looking at EMS.
Well, and I'm just looking at time frames, I think,
But
And you said that's just step one, how many more steps are there?
I was asked to help with the EMS.
Just for EMS, how many steps are there?
we just said.
There's at least 5 major steps in the process to get the entity formed for the ambulance.
So,
How long are the current contracts? Are they
1 year.
yearly
1 year,
contract?
1 year,
yeah,
I think, right? I think they're 1 year contract.
they've always been one year
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
contracts,
don't know.
unless you wanna argue the point.
I-
They're 1 year contracts, cause it states what it's gonna cost, what their cost is gonna be to operate and all that. Every year that changes. As you know, staying alive changes every year too, so if you can think you can run on an old contract, that's really not possible, so. What else do we wanna throw out here tonight?
I think that we gotta, if we're gonna do this, in this 6 months, we gotta get something started. these formats and start putting together a plan or put together
Well, can you get information to all?
Yeah, like I said, I
I
got,
got stuff today and I.
a new one popped up, Prescott, Winchester, Boulder Junction, Manitou Waters are actually in the process of finalizing an EMS district right now, and I actually got just their latest updated copy of what their agreement looks like.
I thought they were up and operating at the first of the year already, no?
They were, but there's some legalities inside it, like I was telling you earlier about how the board can't, they had it in there where the board can make a decision, and the municipalities had to eat it. So they've updating that to say, no, that's a better term, it's undue burden. So the board, that EMS district board cannot create undue burden on the municipalities, so they have to rewrite this structure. As you would expect, there are some challenges with some of the individual agencies are bucking it a little bit, I guess, according to what I'm being told, but I have a copy of the latest agreement. So,
Well, I guess we need to put a packet together and.
yeah,
And,
yeah, like I said, I just got it this afternoon finally, and so I haven't even read through it, so.
I just, we need to take the time and get the packet put together, get it to the four municipalities involved, plus if anybody else wants to look at it, they can look at it and,
Well, what I would say is let's let the four municipalities decide on, this is what we think the framework is, right? Cause you gotta talk about framework, right? How many reps, how do the reps get appointed? One of the problems they had in Prescott up there is, they said that people are appointed to the board, but they don't have to be elected officials, right? So Shaky could appoint, my dad
Right.
to the board, because he's not even part of Nickel, but he could appoint him. They're rewriting that to say, no, it's gotta be an elected official, so they got obviously accountability back to the respective municipalities, so there's some of those, so I think we just get a rough draft run together and say, this is what we think will work, now let the masses, you know, cause if we try to do this with 30 people, it'll never get done.
no, we
I
can't,
mean,
like I said, we
and-
can't have a meeting here with 30 people here.
Yeah, we
Expect to
can-
get anything done, it's not gonna happen,
Right, so,
that's why.
I mean, yes, we can get,
And do we have to send something to each municipality stating that, to put on our agenda saying, are we interested in forming a
We
district?
already signed that paper,
I think,
and then the grant innovation,
that's,
Okay, so we don't have to
I
go
don't
in front of,
know.
okay.
so let me look at what you guys signed versus what Prescott and them guys signed, right? Cause there's an actual form to sign against state statute 160301, right? 660301, right? And I'm not saying it's not right, I'm just,
no, but that's.
we wanna be careful of this, right? I
We
mean,
wanna do it right the first time.
yeah, so I think we gotta get, cause I can't believe the municipalities are gonna, you know, they're gonna wanna see the structure, right? Are you guys interested? Yeah, we're interested, right? But you're not gonna commit to it yet,
No,
right?
it wasn't.
I mean, you're not gonna commit your nickels to it yet, are you, Shaky? I mean, not,
No,
not
but I'm
formally.
just saying, is there some kind of a form or something that we have to do besides that to?
Well, the first thing we have to do
This district.
is, I think, get the structure of the board together and everything together and get that agreement, and say, all right, let's agree on the structure. Cause then we can walk to Nichols and say, present the structure to them, to Nichols, to Cicero, to Village, Black Town of Maine. So everybody understands, this is what the structure is, what problems, you know, send it ahead of time, obviously, so they can, your lawyers are gonna have to look at it and say, we don't like this, we don't like this, you know? Get to finalize what we think is a final, that way everybody got the same answer, they can get the same answer from the questions we're gonna ask, and everybody's get a chance to look at it and say, if you're interested, here's the form you gotta pass, right? Here's the agreement you gotta pass if you're interested. Cause here's the structure, cause you don't wanna sign up for something that you don't know the structure on, right? I mean,
You don't know how you're gonna get represented if you don't.
correct, you gotta talk about representation and, you know, how do people get out of this district, right? I mean, let's say Nichols decides they don't wanna be part of this anymore, how do they, what, you know, is it a 2-year wait, 2-year notice, 3-year notice, I don't know, you know, is there a cost? I don't know, you know? Those are all the questions you gotta answer, right? I mean,
Has anybody looked to see if this actually solves the root problem of the issue that you're trying to correct? If I go back to the beginning, and I've been to several of these, I don't know everything, but my understanding is the root cause of this was the lack of available members to support the ambulance on an ongoing need, meaning you needed so many AEMTs and
I
the
don't,
availability of those people throughout the day, and they had other jobs and so on and so forth, so they were trying to come up with additional funding to
That
try to help
was-
them
that
offset that.
was because the state of Wisconsin says if you have an on-call personnel, you have to pay them. We've never had on-call personnel in order to maintain. And they kind of structured that now that you need to have 24/7. So the only way you can prove that is have an on-call schedule, right? Am I wrong?
That's one way you prove it to the state, yes.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is there wasn't enough people to provide that service ongoing all the time. There was, I mean,
think there
it
was
was
enough.
getting
There's
covered, but by jockeying people around and people,
I think there's plenty of people that were involved. It was the availability, and in order to prove that, you all gotta know where you are and who's leaving town and who's not. So that went to the on-call schedule. On-call schedule needs to be paid. That's
Understood.
where it,
but that's part of my point is, does this solution give you a bigger on-call schedule, and does it solve that problem of having the people available? Or do you go to does this force you to go to a paid service?
The only way I think it's gonna help is if you get people from other communities, because right now, anybody in this room, in your community, they can join our ambulance. Cause we cover pretty much everybody in this room, every community, right?
Not the town of Maine.
Yeah, except for town man.
Or the village.
I think the question is, if it doesn't fix the problem,
I think part of that is that's where some of these people that have these models that we're looking at,
We're making the districts
we wanna hear from them,
get
what
tandem
works,
service.
what doesn't work, what,
The more
you know,
we
how
merit
did it improve it, how did it, how was it detrimental, we wanna
was
hear
was
from
my
other
understanding,
communities.
the training to be an AMET and the yearly updates and all of that, I mean, that's a big burden to carry.
Full process.
And
But you still have your.
and be available at the same time to volunteer, and everyone's it's a big burden to carry, but if we're forming a new district and you have the same problem with a new district, have you really gained anything?
Well, I think what you're doing is you're pulling a bunch of them together. If we do have to go out and get Gold Cross or County Rescue, then we can negotiate a contract with all these municipalities and stay together as a group.
Well,
So-
that's what I'm saying, is if you're gonna do this, make sure you're solving, if that's the problem, make sure you're solving that problem, but if there's other problems,
Correct, to have that kick in case that does occur.
but that problem is a reoccurring problem in all of the state of Wisconsin.
I don't
And
disagree
that's
with it.
why some of this has happened, that's why we wanna go to them people that have solved their problems by doing that, and that's,
So in my opinion, this is not gonna fix our current problem, it's not gonna get us more volunteers or more EMTs, but you have something organized for the future if something does happen. You know, ideally, you form this district and Black Creek Rescue services this district, but at some point, not from the group's choice, but from the rescue service choice, if they choose to disband or they can't do it, now you have something organized. For example, when I heard that when the village went out for bids for the service, Gold Cross wouldn't even bid it because they were too small. Gold Cross told them right out, if all of the municipalities were in, then they would consider covering it. So that's what we're looking at, is having a plan B, you know, not to disband what we have, but be prepared for the future.
One of the other issues is, now that the village isn't in, they're gonna be coming, asking the rest of them, somebody's gonna have to make up for that money that the village isn't putting in. So if that's gonna be you other three communities, or if the village is gonna come in, that's gonna be the issue, and hopefully this district would help take care of that if you.
That's the plan here, that's the whole.
Well, and hopefully too, it would be a lot more organized and structured.
well, and
So it
that's,
doesn't look so unorganized, 'cause I know we did have a few people that were interested in joining, but because of some of the problems that were going on, they chose not to instead, so.
And
hopefully
you
that
hit
would
it
help.
right in the head, right now it's disorganized, because you got the ambulance, are they a legal entity, aren't they, what do they, you know, there's so many unknowns right now, where
So-
there needs to be something organized.
Let me answer that question, I'll put on that, cause I know the answer. So Black Creek Ambulance, as a group, is a legal entity, they are known as Black Creek Fire Rescue within the state of Wisconsin. They themselves, the group of people, are a private entity. The ambulance itself is owned by, I think, 4 municipalities, correct, is that right? 4?
The rig itself.
The rig itself, okay, so this is a different configuration, right, that's what it is. So they are a legal entity, Black Creek Fire Rescue is a legal entity, right? They are not under Black Creek Rural Fire Committee, technically, they are just, they're the oversight, right? They are not legally, in the state of Wisconsin's eyes, attached to them. Because to make it very technical.
Because we don't have an ambulance license.
Correct, you do not carry the ambulance license, Black Creek, the entity known as Black Creek Fire, I think it's Black Creek Fire Rescue, right, Jason? I can't remember. Whatever that it's named of in the state of Wisconsin, that's what it's known as, and that's the people. That's how it's owned. So that's the legal, technical definition, and that's from the state of Wisconsin. So, just to put that on the table, so they are a legal entity per se. There's no.
Operate as an ambulance.
They are legal as an ambulance, and all the functions we do, it's not like we're running illegally in terms of no license or something, it's just that the Rural Fire Committee is not legally our oversight. We are technically our own oversight, by legal definition, so.
So I'm sure they figured it out
Yeah, just, I mean,
as little as possible.
correct, yeah.
But that's why we need to move on and do something that is illegal. And we have everybody has something to say at the table that is involved.
So it sounds like we need to come up with a structure, and we need to come up with a plan of how we're gonna structure it, and, you know, do we wanna use somebody else's as a model and then fit it to us, or how to, you know, like you said before, we can put it out to the municipalities for acceptance, we need to come up with a structure.
Right,
You know,
we need to come-
what representation does each municipality have? I don't think we need the full structure, I just think we need the board structure, the governing, to come up with that, and then they would have to come up with, how do you get in, how do you get out, all the details from there. I think, once you get the group set up, is my opinion, I think that's where you gotta start.
So could you switch this thing, say halfway through the year or whatever, so say you don't have it ready by January 1st and you basically do your contracts like normal. And then you decide that in July 1st, we're gonna go live with this districting.
Well, you gotta understand, this district is independent of the ambulance, right? So we could form this district and everything else.
So it's
Black
basically
Creek
just
Fire-
an oversight committee.
Black Creek Fire Rescue can say Pound's End, we don't want nothing to do with you guys.
Okay.
We're keeping our license, we're running like we are. This district has a license, now they're gonna figure out, you're gonna get an ambulance, you have to go through all that rigmarole, right? So they could basically be running at the same time, legally, right? But they might not have any ambulance response, or coverage, or, I mean, you get in all that gray stuff, right? So,
I think what you're getting to is, the proposal was that, what you're getting to, I understand, is a 6-month contract for 2027, you're saying, or something like that, so it end June 30th or whatever.
If they were.
If we got our
Yeah.
district going, we'd have to.
and Black Creek Fire Rescue Ambulance Service decides to dissolve, then we would take over, the district board would take over as the new entity within the state of Wisconsin. They'd have their own structure and all that.
Cause I think isn't that grant always like, June 30th?
March 31st.
March
You
31st.
gotta have all your numbers in by it, yeah.
So maybe that's
Following year or the previous year? So we have them in by March, can we get it for
If you
27?
get it by March 31st, you gotta have it, you'll get it for 27. Yeah.
So technically you got 9 months then.
Yeah. 99% sure that's what that's.
What is the percentage rate on getting the grant?
I think it's,
So, I mean, I'm just saying, if you go through all this work and you don't get the grant, then what?
Just about a sure thing, cause they got
It
300
is,
million
I mean-
in it, I think I read.
yeah, there's like $200 million, $300 million involved in it.
There was 400 some million in it, there's a
Yeah.
pretty good chunk left in there, I think.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, so the question is, how do we wanna go about setting up a structure?
I still think we gotta go back to the,
get everybody in.
four leaders involved. So you got a group of people that can, I can't have 25 opinions, can't work.
So you're saying sit down with the whole 5 municipalities, you're gonna include me and come up with a proposed structures, you know, each municipality gets this many voting members, and that's the board, and, cause we gotta come up with a plan, so we're not wasting our time having meetings for.
No, I don't wanna waste any more meetings. This one was just to keep everybody informed, because too many rumors get out that we got this big plan and we don't have a plan.
So let me ask you a question here, so what, the rescue squad is willing to take on Maine?
We don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
Jenny said that they talked to the service, the members, and they were willing to take on Maine, is what we were told.
Yeah.
Is Maine looking for half or full township, or, I mean,
Well, we asked them when we had lost Shayaka and they told us no. So-
Yeah, well, things are changing, so don't, like I said, things change all the time,
Right.
so don't just say, they said no once before, things change,
Right.
you know. That,
You guys gotta look at the numbers too, man. Gold Cross comes in, I don't know if you guys are ever gonna afford this thing. This is gonna be a pretty hefty cost.
well, we
Cause if you guys do
understand
this, you're gonna have to have 24 hours. You're gonna have to have people on site all the time. And that gets costly. You gotta buy a house, you gotta buy storage for it. You know, it's a lot of money.
but
But we're,
then-
we're not planning on doing that, but if January first Black Creek Rescue would shut the doors, what are we gonna do? We can't, right now, we can't afford to have it for sure, so we
But I
gotta,
don't think you need a district and go through all this to go to Gold Cross and say, hey, all of us wanna join Gold Cross. Will you guys put something
Yeah,
here?
but you still have to go as a group, cause you don't wanna contract individual every entity, every
Why not?
town.
They pay per capita anyway. That's what.
But the attraction is a collective group, right? So that's why, like Gold Cross, because I know even when Shakton just finished it, they didn't want them to do a Shakton either. Right, because there's not enough call volume for Gold Cross to function up there versus down in the valley where they.
But they took us on, Tony.
Yeah,
we
but
did like
I don't,
6,000 a year.
yeah, but they took on Shakton, Bovina, and you guys, right? So they took on all of Shakton Rescue, right?
Sure,
So there was 120 to 180 calls a year that they absorbed over there.
but we didn't do a district, we just said we were all going with you.
Yeah,
We didn't do any of that stuff,
yeah.
so I don't know if this is a big.
Well,
waste
but
of time
when you
is
go
what
into
I'm
Gold
saying.
Cross, each municipality joins, right? But they're looking at it as I'm getting 3 municipalities to come in together. Now, if Maine would've asked them, they probably would've said,
They probably would have, but I
Right,
don't
I
know
mean-
why we're going through this district stuff, wasting this time and all this money to get future Gold Cross when you're just gonna take us anyway. You get what I'm saying?
what
We
is
did it
part
in
of the
Shayaka.
grant is 25%, right? How was it worded?
Yeah, but if you go to Gold Cross, it's still, you ain't gonna get any money for going to Gold Cross. You have to have your own service, I would think.
What he's saying is Gold Cross will come out here and take town of Cicero. But if you say, you can have town of Cicero, town of Black Creek.
I get what he's saying,
and
but
Nichols,
we did
it's-
that
they'll
with
do it, right.
Shayaka.
But it was with Shayaka and Levina.
But we didn't have to form a
No,
district
you
to do
didn't.
it, that's what I'm
But it
saying.
just happened at the same time.
Right.
I'll just say this, if you ever, so let's just say we form a district, run for 5 years, and we decide we can't support this, and we have to dissolve, the district would dissolve itself, and then you would just go as a collective group saying, hey, we're all together, we're willing to stay together collectively, just on a, I'll call it a gentleman or gentlelady's agreement, that all 5 of us will always stay with whoever we go to, whether we go to County Rescue or Blue Cross, right? But each municipality would sign a contract with both, because I'll guarantee that Maine's contract is gonna look different than the town of Black Creek.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
because you have obviously less call volume than we do, right?
Right.
So, and that's part of the numbers in it, so.
I don't know if you were at the last Towns Association meeting where Doug from the town of Dale was talking, how he was upset with Gold Cross, they had a speaker there from Gold Cross, because across the road, they're not paying for service because they have enough call volume, where his township, they're paying for service and for call. So that's, in my opinion, that's one of the reasons to have a district, is because then you have collective bargaining power, similar to what you and I go through every 5 years when we do garbage contracts. You know, one company's giving the neighboring township a better deal, and I think you get more fair treatment if you have a larger group similar to insurance, health insurance, you know, the larger the group, the better rates you get, and that's my opinion. I think you're gonna get better rates because they know that you're committed, that 5, 6, 7, whatever it ends up being, those municipalities have formed a group and they're committed rather than, you know, negotiating a contract with everyone.
Yeah, I don't see the negative part of having a district is, the positive part's way greater than having a not have a district where you can collectively ask for a service.
And good or bad, you are holding the municipality accountable where you signed up for this for 5 years or whatever, rather than playing that game like we're going through right now, where one municipality decides they don't wanna,
Play,
they don't wanna get in, so then it's, you get the whole, like Dwight was saying, then it affects the other 3 because you gotta pick up the cost, you know, it commits the municipalities, I think, and
mhm. So. Any other comments, suggestions?
so do we wanna set a meeting to just, the municipal people to come up with a structure?
Yeah, what's your calendar like after the fair? Does Mondays work? First part of the Mondays are bad for town meetings, I guess. Any other day of the week work?
My most open days are Wednesdays.
Wednesdays work for me too.
How about the 15th?
15th sounds great.
Is
15th
it-
of July.
Is the 8th available if we wanna keep things moving, or
I won't be here the 8th.
15th works for me?
Shaking yours your 15th.
What time?
15th, don't care about what time. 5 o'clock?
Yeah, start it as early as possible, so if it gets long, we're not here all night.
Just guys, give me your email, I'll forward you guys these.
I'll send a piece of paper around everybody right
Yeah,
there.
make sure you know down, the department has. all-
15th at 5 o'clock work for everybody?
So who's else supposed to go to this?
Well, this is just
So
the
not,
leadership of,
so we don't have to,
no, cause they don't.
Well, once we get something started, we'll invite people back for input and, you know, my opinion, but.
We can,
that's fine, I just didn't wanna make sure everyone gets everyone's supposed to be
No.
there. or-
So we're just gonna concentrate on the ambulance, right, in the beginning?
Yeah,
yeah, we gotta do that.
that's the one that's more pressing.
There's nothing else.
So which one we're kind of more leaning to of these two? So we kind of.
Well, I want you to look at,
He's got 2 more.
I got, Prescott today.
Okay.
So I wanna send you guys that one, cause this is one that they've redone, and you saw Shaky, they're formed and in the process of adjusting, so. And I've got, one from Grafton, and then one from, what's called Milwaukee Metro. So I can forward all 3 of them up.
Every townships, they're all different.
Yep, yeah, I mean, it's just something to look at, and you can take them apart and start crossing off, I don't like this, I like this, you know, like, whatever.
Other than that, anything else we wanna discuss tonight, otherwise? And, call it a night. Thanks for everybody for stopping in. We just want it to be clear that we're not hiding anything. We're just trying to find a way. And the only way we can do that is find all the people that's on it, so.
These ones, the town people that have.
And
What Whatever's on the list, I'll send it out to. You wanna collect, please, look at it as a group, Shaky, go ahead, I mean, I'm not.